Hey everyone, Sumit this side. So there's a very popular front-end interview question asked in LLD or machine coding round, which is to create an event emitter. And I'm not making this video just because it's a frequently asked question, but event emitter is actually very useful and it has a lot of practical use cases, unlike some crazy DSA question. For instance, you can use it to create a PubSub architecture. You can share data without creating a wrapper. You must have heard about Just and right? Mummy call kar rahi. Yeah, so you must have heard about Just and right? Or Just and. It's a very popular state management library that does not wrap your app with a provider, and that's because it's using a hook called useSync external store, which is also using this PubSub architecture under the hood. You must have worked with DOM API, right? For example, button.add event listener on click just fire this callback function. Now, whenever you are dealing with user interaction, for example, clicks, form submission, or any other user events, you are essentially working with an event emitter pattern. So yeah, I think I've given you enough use cases to learn about PubSub architecture. So let's see what we are going to build to test out the implementation of our event emitter. Okay, so I have a live streaming app. The host can go live or end the live as well. And the viewers are by default subscribed to all the events, but they can also unsubscribe. So now if I click on go live, the viewer got the feedback. Sumit started a live stream with ID this, and I can also see the log here. I can click on end live, that will end the live. So last stream with ID this ended. The reason stream ended by the host. I can also see the log here. And now I'll be unsubscribing. Yeah, I got the log unsubscribe from the live stream started. And now if I click on go live, I'll not be getting any feedback. And now this entire sharing of data from the host component to the viewer component are being handled by the event emitter. There is no parent state involved here. So let's write the code, but before jumping into writing the code, either in an interview or for your personal project, always take one step back and write down all the functional requirements and the non-functional requirements. It's very important, at least for the interview purpose. I've written down all these requirements for you, which I'll be going through step by step or point by point. And by the way, if you think these theories are not important, I mean in short, a theory in that case I'll be just adding one timestamp somewhere and then you can just go to the coding part. But from my experience, it's actually very important, at least for the interview. So what are functional requirements? Functional requirements are those requirements which are very much needed to build the backbone of the app. I mean, without these functional requirements, the app will not run. Okay, and then what are the non-functional requirements? Non-functional requirements are pretty much the add-ons that will help the app or the feature to be more scalable, more maintainable, or something like that, right? So what is an event emitter in the first case? The event emitter is basically an architecture where I can fire an event and then somewhere in my app, I have multiple subscription functions for that particular event. Every time I publish that particular event, all the subscription functions should be notified. So in short, all the subscription functions should be fired. Yeah, that's all. So I should have a sub function that will act as subscribe. It says it allows function to subscribe to a specific events multiple times. Notice the multiple times keyword. It means I can have multiple subscription function for a particular event. It means I need to maintain an array, right? And then unsub. Unsub means it just acts like a cleanup function that will remove the subscription from that particular event. And then publish. Publish is again the other part of the event emitter. So every time you publish an event with a payload, all the subscription functions should be fired. So this second point covers that. And then what are the non-functional requirements? It has to be properly typed end to end using TypeScript, and we are going to write some intense TypeScript here in this video. And then encapsulation. The encapsulation is a part of oops. It means don't expose the methods or the properties from the class if it is not needed. Yeah, that's all. I implement logging to track event publishing and subscription activities. Again, it's a very popular thing for a large scale application. So this is a part of non-functional requirements, and again performance monitoring, which is again a part of non-functional requirements. So now from these functional requirements, we can derive that we need to create one event emitter class so that we can create multiple objects or multiple instances of this, right? Then we can use one instance to handle notification, one event emitter instance to handle live streaming, one to handle something else, correct? And then we should have two methods, one is sub and one is pub. The sub should return the unsub function, and on top of that I need to maintain one properties which is called events that will basically map, right? Map from event name to all the subscription function. See, this is one of the best part of writing down functional requirements, that you can get a skeleton of what we are going to build, I mean what we are going to write. Cool. So as per the functional requirements that we have written down there, this is how the API should look like, right? So basically we should have one event emitter object, and then from that event emitter I can call this method which is pub, and then I can pass one event with a payload, right? And then somewhere in my app I should be subscribed to this particular event with a function, and this data is basically the payload that I passed from this publish method, right? And then here I can do whatever I want. For example, I can set a state for that particular component, and then this sub method should return an unsub function. This unsub function then can be called anywhere, maybe manually to unsubscribe from the events or when the component gets unmounted, right? So this is how the API should look like. And now let's create the class. So class event emitter, wow, event emitter, this should have one props called events, and this should be a map, right? So new map from, for now this is string, but we need to make sure that the event name is properly typed. So now this is string, we'll change this later, string to array of callback function, right? So I can do something like this. This will get data which can be any, then I can just wrap this in an array. In fact, let me just change this to a separate type called listener, type listener, right? And then I can replace this with listener. Cool. And then I should have two methods, one is pub and one is sub. The sub should also return a function that will work as a unsubscriber. Now what should the sub get? The sub should get event name, and this is again a string, and of course a listener, correct? And what will the pub get? Pub is again getting an event name, which is a string, and a payload, which can be any type for now. Okay, now let's write down the subscriber function. So subscriber will get a listener for a particular event name, right? So I need to basically make an entry of that event name in the map if the entry is not there, and then I'll just push this listener for that particular array, right? Okay, so first thing first, let's grab all the subscriber function for that particular event if there is any. So this .events.get by the event name, and if there is nothing there, I'll just assign this with an empty array. I'll just create one variable to store it, listeners maybe. Cool. And then I'll be just pushing this listeners.push. I'll just add the listener here, and then I just need to set the listener, right, for that particular event name. And that's all for the subscription. And now for the unsubscribe. So for the unsubscribe, I need to basically filter out that particular function from that array. And then, yeah, I think that's all. Const listeners, or maybe filtered listeners. This autocomplete is so annoying. So I should get all the listeners first. So this .events.get by event name, and then with optional chaining because it might be undefined, right? So it's a filter. I'll just filter out all those functions which are not same as my listeners. So function is not equal to listener, and I'll just set it. So this .events.set for that particular event name, use the filter listeners, and if there is nothing, I'll just set empty array. Okay, now let's write down the publish method. It's pretty simple, right? I got one payload for that particular event name. I'm going to grab the entire entry, the entire array for that particular event name, and then we'll just loop over all the function and call all the function with the payload as argument. It's a const listeners is this .events.get by event name, if I can type. And if there are no listeners, I'll just return if there are no listeners, of course. Now listeners dot for each, just grab all the listener and call the listener the payload. Yeah, so that's all for the publisher function. So I think with this the event emitter class is ready, but there are a lot of work to do. But every time I start recording now, परस्पर आंटी रात के 3 बजे मिक्सर ग्राइंडर चला देते हैं. Okay, so now with this the main functionalities of this event emitter is ready. Now let's improve the TypeScript. Okay, so first thing, the event name is now addressed as string, right, which is very wrong. It means if I just put it outside the comment, now you notice I can pass anything in the pub, right? But in most of the scenarios, in all the scenarios, all the event name and the payload is tightly coupled, right? We need to create one interface that will basically map from event name to the payload. So let's do that. Type event to payload map, maybe event to payload map, and let's say live stream started. So live stream started is mapped to hostname and stream ID. So this is basically a payload, and live stream ended is mapped to hostname and stream ID. I'll not make this hostname. Instead, I'll say reason, maybe reason of ending the stream. And now I can pass this event to payload map as a generic. And now I also need to accept this generic. So I'll go to this event emitter here, and I'll pass. Now here is one more thing that we can do. Now, since it's accepting a generic here, it means I need to pass a generic, but I can pass anything here, right? For example, like I can pass something like this. This is still valid, but ideally it should not be valid, right? So what we can do, we can add one condition here. With this event to payload map, the generic should always extend a record from string to any. Right? So now I can't pass any random type here, so this will be an error. Okay, now this event name should not be string, it should be key of event to payload map, right? So that I can get all the key like live stream started and live stream ended, correct? And then again I can just copy this entire thing and replace all the event name, all the string for the event name. And now I can't pass anything here. For example, it's giving me an error like ASDA whatever is not assignable to a parameter of key of event to payload map. It means if I press Ctrl space, that should be live stream started and live stream ended, right? But now there is one more issue, which is I can pass anything here as the payload and it will not give me error. Now we need to handle this as well. Now this payload should always be coupled to its event name, right? So for that, what we can do is we can take a generic here. We can say, hey, this generic will always extends the key of event to payload map, and now I can replace this key of event to payload map to T, and that is basically the same, right? And now what we can do is we can say, hey, you can derive the payload from the event to payload map, right? And now you see it got me one error, and it means basically I can't pass anything. So if I press Ctrl space, stream ID, and this would be a string, right? So now we can do similar thing for the sub as well. So I'll just copy this, I'll pass this as generic to the sub. I'll replace this with T, and then for the listener it's fine, but we can do one thing. The listener, the data is any for now, right? I'll just grab this. Now if you hover over the data, this data is any, right? It should not be any. I should have get the typed from the event name, because I have passed this event name here, which is live stream started, and live stream started has a payload of hostname and stream ID. So I should be getting here hostname and stream ID. So what we can do is again a generic. We can say, hey, the listener. Now we can pass a generic here, or better we can just remove this, or directly use this. So instead of any, I can say this will be event to payload map and pass T. Is basically the same thing. For this listener, again we can just replace this initial part, which is data any. Okay, so now if I hover over this data, I can see this will be hostname or stream ID or undefined, because the data can be optional. Okay, so with that, let's try to implement this in our real app. Wait. Before that, I want to do one more thing, and that is I need to take care of the encapsulation. So what do I mean by encapsulation? So if you notice here, I can press event emitter dot. I can get pub or sub, right? But I can also get the events. But the events is unnecessary. There are absolutely no use case as of now to get the events, right? So it means what we can do is we can just go to a class and make this events property private, and explicitly make the pub and the sub public. So now I'll not be getting access of events. So this is the part of encapsulation. Cool. So I'll just remove these two lines. I'll just export one event emitter object from here. Let's say event emitter for live stream, maybe, right? And now we need to use that. Cool. So I've created a simple app here with this event emitter demo, which is just has a heading and a host component and a viewer component. I have not implemented any functionalities yet, so I have a simple state here which says it's live or not, only to use for this component, for the host component basically. And then I have this viewer component which is again a state to show the data here. Now the sharing the data between the host component and the viewer component should be done using the event emitter. I have not implemented that yet. So let's see the web as well. I have go live, I have end live, and there's nothing happening here, right? So first thing first, on clicking on this go live button, I need to publish this event which is live stream started, and on clicking on this end live button, I need to fire a different event which is live stream ended. In the viewer component, I need to subscribe to this particular event, right? So let's do that. I'll just go to the host component first. I have this publish button, I have this go live button which has this handle go live. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to import this event emitter for live stream, and then for pub this live stream started event, and here I'm going to publish this host name which is Sumit and the stream ID 123, and then for the handle end live, I just copy this. So notice one thing, I'm using the same event emitter for the live stream in all the scenarios, right? So basically I have a single object exported to handle the live stream in the entire app. This is called a singleton pattern. So this is live stream ended, and this case this should not be host name thanks to my TypeScript, and the reason is mummy mana kar rahi hai. Okay, so now I can go live or end live, and I'll just go to viewer component and we'll use effect to subscribe to this particular event when the component gets mounted. The same object event emitter for live stream dot sub live stream started, and here I'll be getting one callback function that will give me the data. So with this data, what I want to do, I want to set the live stream. So data.hostname is live. Next I want to unsubscribe from this. Okay, I also need to subscribe from this as well. I'm also subscribing to this live stream ended as well, and then I need to be unsubscribed from all these events when the component gets unmounted, right? So for that I'll get this cons unsub live stream ended. Okay, now if you are solving this question in interview, please make sure that you are writing the variables name properly. So const b live stream, no, not ended, it started, it's ended. Okay, and now on return, so this will be worked as a cleanup function. So unsubscribe from the started, unsubscribe from the ended. Let's see. So I can click on go live, I can click on end live, go live, end live. Now I also need to add one button to unsubscribe. So for that, let me just quickly copy paste a button, started. Okay, now I'll be writing this function somewhere here. Now we need to store this unsub function somewhere, right? For that we can use a ref here. So const ref is unsub ref, and now I just need to store it here. So for example, unsub ref is dot current is equal to started. So I'm just storing one function for now, and then I'll be just calling this. I have a TypeScript error here, don't worry about that, right? And now here I can just call unsub dot current with optional chaining. This is not callable. Why this is not callable? Who said that this is not callable? Can be null or function. This will return void. So now I think it should work. Let's see. Okay, go live, end live, I'll unsub, and now I'll go live, there is no effect. Okay, so that's it from my side. I hope you have learned something. In the next video, we'll be creating one toast component from scratch, which is again very popular question. And till then, see you, bye.